Hello, and welcome to episode 31 of Desert Fathers with Bishop Erik Varden. I'm Jamie Baxter from Exodus 90, and I'm honored to walk alongside you during this adventure into the desert. Throughout this month, we've been exploring Bishop Varden's exhortations on the 6th chapter of the systematic collection of the sayings of the Desert Fathers on possessing nothing. Throughout this month, we've been given powerful and difficult teachings. The Fathers have exhorted us to be undivided by the love of money and to store up treasure in heaven where there will be endless time to rest. For the cost of a divided heart is worse than having our flesh torn apart by wild beasts. They have reminded us that even that which can edify the soul can still become an idol and a stumbling block. The purpose of the Christian life is not the accumulation of things, but to follow our Master, who patterns for us the meaning of life, to give ourselves away in love. And the Fathers have shown us that even provision for the future can distract our hearts from where they should rest, content with the work of the day and living on the provision of the Lord. As we begin our final week on this powerful chapter, we turn now to the question of money and our motives for giving it away. With that, I'll hand it over to Bishop Varden as we read and meditate on a saying about an anonymous donor in the desert. This is episode 31 of Desert Fathers. Gold.
A grand personage came from abroad and brought along a great quantity of gold to Scetis. He asked the prayer to give it to the brothers. The priest, however, said, "The brothers do not need it." But the other man pestered him and placed the basket full of gold at the door of the church. The priest said, "Let anyone who has need help himself." But no one drew close. Some monks didn't even notice. The priest therefore said to the rich man, "God has looked kindly on your charity. Go now and give it to the poor." He left greatly edified. We have seen that in the Jerusalem church, distribution from the common fund was made to all as any had need. That principle obtains in monastic life too. A monastery may be austere, the monks or nuns may live poorly, but it is never an ideal to deprive someone of what is truly necessary. Provision is made for all manner of dispensations in view of sickness or weakness, and failure to be kind in such instances is censured. The point of ascesis is to free a woman of man from superficial, needless cravings, not to strip them of essentials. Here, though, we do face subtle distinctions, and they can be difficult to make. For what do I, and do I not, strictly speaking, need? Do I need to go for a run 3 times a week outside the monastic enclosure, or is that just something I happen to enjoy? Do I need the particular kind of food or drink I always look for at table, getting cross if it isn't there? Or am I just nurturing a pet obsession? I think most of us can easily customize this sort of questioning to our own circumstances. The question of need becomes especially acute when someone offers us money, gold. Gold is always pretty handy. There are always needs, if not present ones, then tomorrow's. A wise steward must be mindful of these also. A religious community with many mouths to feed, as well as the poor and guests to look after, is always conscious of resources it lacks. Then there is God's glory to consider. A gift might permit an extraordinary votive offering, a new pair of candlesticks, a splendid icon, a gilded chalice, a pilgrimage. And are not such things too needful if God is God and we owe him choicest worship? Throughout monastic history, long disputes have revolved around such issues, with wise, sincere, and holy people present on all sides. Gold, though, calls for vigilance. Gold has a knack for bringing out the very worst in us. It's not easy to be free before gold, even if we fast, say our prayers, and think of ourselves as jolly spiritual. A passage in the life of Antony is significant in this respect. It occurs at that crucial turning point when, after years of battle against evil in the cemetery, he goes out into the desert in search of the fortress that would become for him a place of great grace. We're so relieved to see our hero restored after his last decisive run-in with the devil, when he cried out to God, "Where were you?" only to hear God affirm, "I was there, Antony, but waited to see you fight. So relieved are we that we might miss two little details that follow." As Antony made his cheerful way into the inner wilderness, he saw a silver dish lying in the sand. Wouldn't it be sensible to take it along? A pious pilgrim might have lost it and be glad to have it restored to him, or it could be given away as alms. Antony, though, smelt a rat. He suspected the dish was some devilish delusion planted there to distract him, so made a resolute prayer to this effect: "No way, you evil one! You are not going to hinder my purpose. Let this thing go with you to destruction." No sooner had he finished his prayer than the plate vanished like smoke from the face of fire. But that isn't all. A little further on, Antony found a whole lot of gold scattered about, the real stuff, not a mirage. He marveled at the quantity of it, unsure of where it came from. This time there was no obvious sign of devilish to-do. He didn't pause to consider this mystery. Instead, he passed through the area as though he was going over fire, hurrying on at a run, in order to lose sight of the place. It's a noble image of this spiritual athlete. Having stood firm through spectacular temptations that had racked him in spirit, body, and mind, Antony was exposed to one last trial, utterly concrete and mundane, that of filling his pockets with wonga. His resistance shows his stature. For how many gurus, ancient and modern and contemporary, have not fallen headlong into this trap? The brothers of Scetis are worthy sons of such a father. I love the fact that some of them quite failed to notice the gold stashed at the church door. Their minds were on higher things. May ours be likewise. There's one last thing to consider: the donor. In a sense, his gift was spurned. He left, edified, we're told, but perhaps a little humbled too. I can't help thinking of a letter Father John of Valamo wrote in 1955 to a spiritual directee who by post had sent him a watermelon, a luxury in rural Finland in those post-war years. Father John wrote, "I thank you very much for the watermelon, although the package arrived in battered condition, the watermelon damaged, the paper all wet. The postmistress was displeased. Other packages got wet. No doubt you sent it with vanity. It always happens that anyone who acts with vanity can expect disgrace." stern words from a true monk. Sometimes we need to hear such words to be freed of our pretension.
A grand personage came from abroad and brought along a great quantity of gold to Scetis. He asked the priest to give it to the brothers. The priest, however, said, "The brothers do not need it." But the other man pestered him and placed the basket full of gold at the door of the church. The priest said, "Let anyone who has need help himself." But no one drew close. Some monks did not even notice. The priest therefore said to the rich man, "God has looked kindly on your charity. Go now and give it to the poor." Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. If you have been blessed by the podcast, please share it with a friend today. Visit desertfathers.com to subscribe to our email newsletter and to submit a question to Bishop Varden for our next Q&A. That's desertfathers.com. Desert Fathers is brought to you by Exodus 90, produced by EWTN, and written by Bishop Erik Varden. Brothers, as summer comes to a close, join me and thousands of men worldwide in reviving an ancient and powerful devotion to St. Michael the Archangel, called St. Michael's Lent. On August 15th, the Assumption, we will begin 40 days of prayer, asceticism, and fraternity in imitation of St. Francis of Assisi, who observed St. Michael's Lent with great devotion in his time. Download the Exodus 90 app or visit exodus90.com to learn more. We start August 15th. All Holy Fathers and Mothers of the Desert, pray for us.